Hello everyone, Earl Henderson, Primordial Defense. Thank you for watching. I have another Monday quarterback video for you. I'm going to play this video and talk about things that are going on to better explain what's going on and talk about things that I think that are being done right and or done wrong. Here we go.
With the following critical incident video, the Fresno Police Department is sharing information about an officer-involved shooting that occurred on January 2nd, 2022. Our goal with critical incident videos is to be transparent with our community and share as much information as we are able to when critical incidents such as this one occur. The following critical incident video provides an overview of the incident and includes body-worn camera footage and 911 recordings. Due to the graphic nature of this video, viewer discretion is advised. Officers assigned to the Multi-Agency Gang Enforcement Consortium received information on the location of 27-year-old Gabriel Mata. That location was a home in the 5000 block of South Maple Avenue. Mr. Mata, a known gang member, was wanted for a felony domestic violence charge and had threatened to shoot the victim and police. When officers arrived, they discovered that Mr. Mata was no longer at the residence, but had fled into a nearby field. The following body-worn camera video shows the officers arriving at the residence and requesting a canine to respond Code 3. After determining that Mr. Mata was not in the home, officers discovered he had fled into a nearby field.
Alright, so let's go back to the map. So, they know right off the bat what they're going to. They know that they are going to be serving an arrest warrant on a gang member. A gang member who has threatened to kill police. That alone, in my opinion, says that rifles are a must in this kind of scenario. Unfortunately, that's not going to be the case, so I'll go ahead and let you know. I don't think that anyone has a rifle out in the very beginning. It's hard to see everybody in the very beginning of this video, but it does not appear as though anybody has a rifle. And that is one of my chief complaints when it comes to videos like this, is officers neglecting to get a rifle out. So they know they're going to serve a warrant on a violent gang member. Alright, this ain't, like, this is in Fresno, California, right? This ain't like some little podunk town in the Midwest where population is super low and there's a quote-unquote gang in town, right? There's a difference between small town gangs and big city gangs. Small town gangs, they just don't, like, it's night and day difference. They just do not do the same fucking shit to the same level that these big city gangs do. They're not, small town gangs are not getting involved in gunfights. They're not doing all this stupid shit. So, where they're at, like, yeah, they're dealing with a real gang member. Someone who's been there, done that. So a rifle, when dealing with someone like that, is a requirement. Especially if they've already made threats that they're going to kill police. Pistols are just not good, in my opinion. Pistols are, realistically, when you think about it, pistols are an emergency tool. That's all they are. They are used in a sudden, rapidly evolving situation where at the onset there was no indication that, you know, there could be deadly force or anything like that. Conversations were consensual, etc. And then, boom, suddenly and rapidly shit changes, and now you're in a fight for your life. That's where the pistol comes into play, in my opinion. And that is the only way that the pistol should ever have its place at the table, is just during normal day-to-day shit. Because when you think about law enforcement is not getting into gunfights every single day. At your like, when you, of course, come to this channel and you look at all these reviews, you would think different. You're like, holy fuck, there's, you know, people being shot every day. At a national level, yeah, it can look like that. At a local level, no. think about your local agency. When is the last time your local agency has ever had a officer-involved shooting? If it's been recent, then think about the time before that. When was the last time they got into an officer-involved shooting? Chances are, for most of you watching, it's been a while, if ever, that your local agency has ever been involved in an officer-involved shooting. Even in large municipalities, it's the same thing. Even if a large municipality has had a shooting once every 2 weeks or once a month, that's still, when you compare the number of officers for that agency and the things going on, that's still a pretty damn low number. So not all of them are getting into gunfights. Law enforcement, day in, day out, is just mundane bullshit. It's writing reports and talking to people. That's it. It is not shooting people or getting in gunfights all damn day. That's not what's happening. And so if you're going to be talking to people and doing reports all damn day, there's the potential that maybe something bad could happen. That's where the pistol comes into play. It's on your side in those moments where you're just doing your normal day in, day out shit that for the past fucking year you've been doing, and it resulted in nothing happening but maybe someone having some hurt feelings. And that was it. Never had to pull your gun, never had to shoot, etc. That's what the pistol's for. So the pistol can be with you on, quote unquote, routine traffic stops. And I know some people are flipping their shit right now. There's no such thing as a routine traffic stop. You get what I'm fucking saying. Shut up. It can be used for going to that out of control juvenile call. It can be used for all the other mundane fucking calls that you go on day in, day out. Because you've been on those calls before and you never most likely got into a gunfight. Other calls, like a robbery in progress, a burglary in progress, those are calls where the pistol should stay in its holster and instead a rifle come out. Because that type of call that you're going on has an increased likelihood of deadly force being used. So when you look at things that are deadly for law enforcement, bank robbers and stuff like that, those are deadly things. Those are incidents where violence can happen, boom, at moment's notice. And so for those things, it makes more sense to get out with a rifle. On cases like this, going to serve a felony warrant on a gang member, it makes sense to get out with a rifle because the person you're dealing with is violent, has shown a propensity for violence, and is threatening to kill police. And the area that they're in, I would not be surprised if this gang member has been involved in some fights before. And I'm not talking fist fights, I'm saying gunfights. So they've probably been involved in some fights before. So a rifle is a must in these kind of scenarios. The environment that they're in should dictate the use of a rifle. They're out in the country. There's lots of open fields right here. Long distances. A rifle is going to shine in this environment because it is more accurate, has a longer barrel, and has more points of contact on it. And there's a visual that I'll get to here in a little bit where I'll expound upon that a little bit more. But with a rifle, you get better accuracy out of it because it has a longer barrel and you got more points of contact on it. With a pistol, it's a very short barrel and you only get 2 points of contact. Your dominant hand and your support hand. That's it. Unless you can brace your arms up on something, that's all you got. Aside from the accuracy and everything that would make it really shine in this environment, the big thing that makes rifles or long guns in general better than pistols is the terminal ballistics. Rifles will dominate gunfights. They will stop gunfights. They will incapacitate threats super fast compared to a pistol. The rifle cartridge is just devastating in comparison to a pistol cartridge. The amount of kinetic energy it dumps, the damage it does, it's just, it will take fewer rounds of rifle to incapacitate a threat than it will a pistol. You can fire 1 to 3 rounds from a rifle into a target and incapacitate it pretty rapidly. In a pistol, it could take 5 to 12 rounds into a target before you can get it to incapacitate. Rifle is just way much better. We'll go back and get back into the video.
I'm gonna go around that.
So let's look at time of day. Time of day, I think, is an important factor when serving warrants on certain people. This is late afternoon. The sun's going down. It's about nighttime. So some criminals, especially like the gang types. Now, I'm not saying every single person is like this, but a lot of them are. A lot of your gangbangers, they can tend to live a more animalistic schedule. And you'll also see that a lot in a jail. They sleep during the day, in the morning and the day, and they're awake in the afternoon and evening. And a lot of them are like that on the streets. They sleep in super late, but they're awake in the afternoon and the evening. So there's a good chance, excuse me, there's a good chance that this gangbanger is in his prime right now. Like, he's already been awake for a few hours. He's rested. He's got more energy. He's more alert. His reflexes are better. He's fresh, right? These officers, I don't know what their schedule is, but it's possible that these officers are day shift guys, and they started their day a lot sooner than this dude. And I don't know what day this is. I mean, I guess I could look it up on the calendar real quick to see what day of the week they're dealing with here. So this is January. Well, this says January 3rd. I thought it was January 2nd that this occurred. So January 2nd is a Sunday. January 3rd is a Monday. I thought the beginning of this said on the 2nd. Let's go back. Yeah, that says January 2nd, but in the thing it says the 3rd. So I don't know. Either way, it's either a Sunday or a Monday. It's possible, like I said, that these officers started their day a lot sooner than this guy did. It's possible that they were up around 7 o'clock this morning and have been going on since then. So they're at the tail end of their day, right? They've been up, they've been doing stuff, they're worn out, they're fatigued. And really, what plays a big factor in that too is how many days they've been working. Is this their quote-unquote Monday? Is this their first day at work? If so, then they should have more energy. Is this their Thursday or Friday? Are they worn the fuck out from working all week? Have they been putting in a bunch of overtime, etc.? So the time frame for them may not be very optimal. This could be end of day for them. They're already tired, working all damn day, doing all these cases, blah, blah, blah. Ready to get home, where they're probably not going to get any rest at home. Get home, do work, family stuff, whatever. So they're fatigued. They're physically exhausted and mentally exhausted. Now they're coming up on a dude who could have slept all fucking morning, because he's a gangbanger. He can't realistically hold a normal job. And is rested. I highly doubt he's out there in the fields doing stuff. If he is out there in the field doing stuff, he's probably tending to a little small marijuana grow that he's got hidden somewhere out there, maybe. But it's not like he's plowing the whole fields out there doing Farmer Joe work. So the gangbanger has probably rested, has not been awake very long, and is physically and mentally more capable, in a sense, more fresh than what these officers could be at. So timing can be a lot of things, or mean a lot for a lot of things. And it's possible, like I said, not every gangbanger is the same, but it's possible that this could have been something that would have been better for them to do at 7 o'clock in the morning, 6 o'clock in the morning, when it's probably almost guaranteed this fucking dude's going to be asleep. And then they can roll in, catch the fucker by surprise, and avoid this whole thing altogether. They also call for a canine. Why is the canine not already there? Like, you're going in to serve this arrest warrant on this dude, there should have been a canine there. On top of everyone having rifles out, there should have been a canine already there on scene, ready to do work. Moving on.
Just make announcements.
Hey, ready, 15. Can you check on a canine, Sergeant Code 3? Hey, Barry, 15.
Sir, we'll take notice. You want to go there?
Hey, Barry, 15. Can you start us at Canine Code 3? Copy.
Go out to the field.
3?
Show these things. Show this. Looks good.
Affirm. A possible leg bell into the field to the west. Hey, is that him?
Yeah, it's him.
Negative. We have eyes on him. About 150 yards far west.
Officers established a perimeter around the residence and the field. For approximately 30 minutes, Mr. Mata kept running away as officers approached him, refusing to comply with the officers' attempts to get him to peacefully surrender. During this time, it was learned that Mr. Mata was armed with a knife.
Hey, listen. I was cool with you over there.
All right. So pay attention to the circled area. That's him right there in the center walking around.
Come on, Gabriel, man. It ain't that bad, brother.
So they estimate he's about 150 yards away from them. And from what little I could tell, it seems like most, if not all of them, have pistols. What if this bad guy had a rifle? Or let's say he even had an AK pistol or AR pistol. It's still shorter barrel, but it's, I mean, for all intents and purposes, a fucking AR pistol and AK pistol is a damn rifle. It's just a short barreled rifle. But what if he had one of those, or an actual legit rifle with a longer barrel on it? He would have fucked these officers up. He would have been able to get more accurate rounds on the police, and then they, returning fire with pistols, would have been at a complete disadvantage. They would not likely hit him in the middle of a gunfight. So the environment that they were going to, they should have brought rifles with them for this alone right here. Long distances, you need a rifle. Longer barrel, more points of contact. A pistol shooting at a target at this distance is not it's not feasible. Now, there have been incidents where people have shot other people at around 100 yards. So I'm not saying it's completely impossible, but it's just not likely. The one, and I can't remember the exact details of it, but the one thing that comes to mind, it was in an Air Force base, and the Air Force police, I think they call them security forces, whatever the name for Air Force police. It was at an Air Force base, and it was like I can't remember the details. I don't know if it was like an active killer kind of event, but some dude armed with a gun, he shot and killed some people, or a person or two, and Air Force cop got on scene, and I think they were even on a bicycle. I think they were on a bicycle. They rolled up, and of course, it being military, which this would have been like back in the 90s. So obviously back then, would have been rocking a fucking Beretta, an M9 92 FS, and put sights on this dude, shot him, and I want to say like he was somewhere like 75 to 80 yards away. That's not a typical pistol engagement. That is pretty far outside the typical pistol engagement. No one practices for a shot that long because it's so unlikely. But he was able to do it. There's been other cases where people have made a long shot with a pistol in a gunfight, and they made hits on target. It's extremely hard to do, even on a cold range, or not cold range, but like just a shooting range, right? Like you don't have targets shooting back at you. It's even difficult to do it then. So I've been able to shoot targets out to 100 and 200 yards with my pistol. Glock 17 with either standard sights or the XS sights. No target sights whatsoever. And even then, I'm not 100% consistent with hitting that gong, especially at the 200 yard. I mean, you can't even set your sights on the target. You have to set your sights above the fucking target. You don't even see the target when you're aiming at it because it's covered by the gun, because your sights are set well on top of it, above it. So even shooting at 200 yards at a target with a pistol on a range where you're cool, calm, and collected, no one's shooting back at you, you don't have fight or flight kicking in, that can be hard. Even at 100, that can still be hard. To do that while you're being shot at, or there's a potential that they can turn around and start shooting at you, well, that makes it even more difficult. So rifles in this environment is a necessity. Like, they should have known going into this, hey, let's get rifles out just in case he's not in the house, or he flees the house and ends up in the field.
Gabriel, come on, man. Hey, listen. It ain't no big deal. Come on. Let me talk to you. Brother.
I got cover here.
Officer number 1 returned to his patrol car and drove by the residence. Mr. Mata had momentarily left the field and returned to the residence property, where his family also urged him to surrender. Officer number 1 saw that Mr. Mata was armed with a knife and returned to his patrol car to retrieve a non-lethal device painted with yellow markings, which deploys pepperball rounds.
And A-15 is running straight towards me. Gabriel, stop! Crossfire!
Alright, so listen in the background, listen to the family talking. Please tase him. That's all he has is a knife. That's it. Very dismissive of him to say it like that. If it's just a knife, then why aren't you fucking wrapping him up Like, you're urging him to surrender. Why don't you fucking snatch his ass up and hold him for the officer to get over there? I know why. Because you recognize the fact that it's a fucking knife and it will kill you. But there are so many people out there who share this same bullshit sentiment. It's just a knife. It's just a knife. If it's just a knife, and you saying it like that, then that tells me that you don't think it's capable of killing or causing serious physical injuries. So if you think that, then would you like to participate in a scientific study involving a knife? Would you like to be stabbed by a knife? And I guarantee you, no one would volunteer to be stabbed with a knife, because they all recognize the fact that it can cause serious physical injuries and or death. But yet, people still keep up with this fucking bullshit mindset of, it's just a knife. These are people who are borderline fucking retarded, in my opinion. A knife is very deadly. And you know, there are some people who say don't bring a knife to a gunfight. Well, there are some people who can bring a knife to a gunfight and will fucking prevail. If you're within 21 feet of a person who has a gun on them, you most definitely can fuck them up with a knife before they could ever get that gun out and put incapacitating rounds on target. That's why there's called what most people call a 21-foot rule, the Tueller drill. It's established that within 21 feet, a person with a knife can cover that distance and be on top of you before you could ever pull your gun and put accurate incapacitating rounds on target. And these drills are done with the person who has the gun knowing the fucking attack is coming. So the Tueller drill is done. It can be done a couple different ways. It could be on the range where the shooter is 21 feet away from the target and a person is back to them, like they're back to back. And then at the whistle blow, or when that person who is going to be the runner takes off running away from the shooter, going away from the range, that tells the shooter, hey, it's shoot time. And then the shooter, once they feel that contact or they hear that whistle blow, shooter will draw a gun, aim target, fire, put an incapacitating round, within the kill zone. The other person, mind you, has been doing the Nike drill, running, and whenever that shot is fired, that person immediately stops, or someone or a few people who are downrange, or not downrange, but who are, along that course, will pinpoint exactly where that person was when the round went off. And then you do the measurement from the line going back, and that person who ran is well past 21 feet. Well past. The other way to do this is with force on force, using marking cartridges, submunition guns. You just have the distance of 21 feet. Person initiates contact. They start running towards the person with the sim gun, and chances are they will be on top of that person with their fake knife before that person could ever pull their sim gun out and shoot. And like I said, these drills are done where the shooter knows the fight is coming. They might not know exactly when it's going to start, but they know damn well it's going to be happening. They're prepared for it. And even when they're knowing of it and they're prepared for it, they still can't get their fucking gun out in time. But anyway, a knife. I mean, humans have been killing people with knives for a very long time. Still, even today, people are being killed with knives. They're deadly. They will straight fucking kill you. And like I said, this idea that, these people say this stupid shit is just a knife. No, it's more than just a knife. It's a fucking knife.
Crossfire! Stop!
He's got... Gabriel! He's got a knife! Hey, Mary 15's got a knife in his hand. Move!
Move out the way! Move!
Move!
Move out the way! Gabriel, come on, man! Let's go get the left.
Yeah.
Gabriel!
Yep.
So in the past, I have talked about med kits and keeping them in the trunk. And with that, the best place I think for a med kit to be is on the trunk lid itself. So if you could modify your trunk lid to be able to hold a med kit, that's what you need to do. Because if it's strapped to the lid of the trunk, there's no chance of it being buried under a bunch of bullshit like a raincoat, winter jacket, clipboards, a box, a tape, or like whatever. No chance of it being buried under a bunch of shit. As soon as you open that trunk, boom, it is right freaking there. Now, I can't tell exactly how they have this one on. It's too shadowy to tell. But they could have had right there, with the lining removed, one of the support bars for the trunk lid itself. They could have wedged a strap in there, and the back of the pouch, it just has two MOLLE clips on it, and it could be snapped in that way, or it could be Velcroed in, something like that. I have no idea exactly how it's affixed on there, but point is, there's no, like I said, there's no accidental way of stuff being on top of it. It's not going to be buried under a bunch of shit. As soon as you open the trunk, it's right fucking there. Easy to see, easy to grab, and nothing in the way. So if you got a car, that is the best way to put your med kit, is on the trunk lid itself.
Mr. Mata then ran back into the field, heading west towards the railroad tracks. Officers continued attempts to verbally de-escalate the situation, but Mr. Mata did not comply. Officers followed Mr. Mata until he reached the railroad tracks. At this time, a Fresno County Sheriff's Department canine deputy had arrived on scene. After multiple warnings from the Fresno County Sheriff's Office deputy for Mr. Mata to peacefully surrender, the canine was deployed to assist in Mr. Mata's apprehension. As officers and deputies approached to take Mr. Mata into custody, he repeatedly stabbed the canine with his knife. The canine deputy quickly approached to rescue his canine as Mr. Mata continued to stab his dog. Two Fresno police officers discharged their service weapons.
Lane Collins, then just sit down, dude. Get on the ground, you're gonna get bit.
This guy right here has a rifle. This guy over here has a paintball gun. The officer whose camera we're looking through, he has a paintball gun. And of course, the two paintball guys have pistols only. I'm not 100% sure what the people behind them have,
If there's a patrol unit south of
but I
us,
think this is the only person right up here that has a rifle.
Hold on, John. Back up.
Trying to look at this guy over here.
Hold on, John. Back up.
Couldn't tell very well. Might be able to see it when they make the
Hey,
approach.
Gabriel, final warning, sir. Hey, get on the ground, you're gonna get bit. Watch him, Jared. Watch him.
Alright, so he is a pretty good distance away. When you think about incident command, or even for the canine officer himself, having to make decisions based off being a manager, in a sense, because he's managing that dog, he's managing that resource. But overall, there should be someone in this group that is in charge. And so whoever that person is, ideally, is the incident commander of this operation, of this event. If not the incident commander, then they are at least the operations commander, right? So someone has to be in charge of this group. The canine officer himself, he is like a team leader in a sense. He's the one who is leading the dog. So he also has to make some decisions that the incident commander would be also making. And those decisions are relating to resource management and risk mitigation. So the dog is a resource. It's a tool, right? It's like a fucking car. It's a flashlight, pry bar, whatever. The dog is a tool. Yes, it is. It's a living thing. It's breathing. It looks like a house pet, but it's a tool. It's a working dog. And when you think about risk mitigation for your equipment, your resources, you don't want to unnecessarily destroy equipment. Risk versus reward, right? Pros and cons of things. Some things there's going to be a higher chance, a higher degree of things being destroyed. And is it worth it for those things to be destroyed? A good example would be the fire department. Fire department responds to a brush fire. There's a field on fire, and there's a thing of like shrubs and trees that are kind of on fire. And incident commander says, we're going to drive a fucking fire truck in the middle of this field that's on fire, get to the center, and then start attacking the fire that way. Or we're going to drive through this field to get to these trees to let the trees down. Whatever, stupid scenario. That makes no sense at all. Like, why would you send a fucking truck through a burning field? You're increasing the risk of, one, the people in that truck being hurt or killed, and then two, losing that truck. Like, why would you destroy that truck just for a field? So, reward versus benefit. Risk versus reward. Pros and cons of things. So, some things, you're going to be able to say, you know what, there's some degree of risk of this, but I think that if we do it, the reward is going to be better. There's a higher chance of success. Probably won't lose the equipment, but there is a possibility. Just like there's a possibility in anything. But we don't think it's very likely. And then there's other things where you're just like, yeah, it's very likely we're going to lose this piece of equipment. Like sending a fucking brush truck, a fire truck, through a burning field that's actively on fire. Yeah, you damn well know there's a pretty damn good chance you're going to lose that fucking truck. So with that being said, in this scenario, I don't think sending the dog is the great thing to do. They're too far away from this guy. That dog is going to cover that distance a lot fucking faster than the humans. So once that dog latches onto him, that dog is going to be by himself for a little bit until they can catch up and get on top. Meanwhile, asshole with the knife is going to be stabbing the dog. And could be stabbing the dog for a few seconds before any of them could get up there and get into a position to fire an accurate, incapacitating shot into him. If they release the dog here and they get a little bit closer, but still almost kind of the same distance, because he's obviously going to run as soon as he sees the dog, and that dog latches on, they can't just stop exactly where they're at and start shooting. The guy with the rifle, maybe, he might be able to, through his sights with the rifle, stay at a pretty good distance away and get one good clean shot off on the guy. The other people with pistols, they're not getting clean shots. You know their rounds are going to miss. And that dog is going to have a high increased chance of being shot by his own people. And that has happened a lot before in other incidents. Police release the canine on someone, and they're not this far away, but they release the canine on someone, boom, that person produces a weapon, officers fire, and like I said, rounds get missed in gunfights, and so those officers were aiming at the bad guy who had the weapon, but they missed, and the poor canine got hit. That's happened a lot of times across the nation. Now, some of those scenarios, it may not have been known that the person had a weapon. So there's still a risk involved, but it wasn't exactly known they had a weapon. In this scenario, they know he has a weapon. They know he has a knife. And this dog can cover that distance a lot fucking faster than they can and be on this dude before they could ever get into a good position to provide good lethal cover for the canine. So this is almost like sending a fire truck into a burning field. It just makes no fucking sense to me. They got 2 guys here who have paper ball guns. Those 2 hoppers that's on those guns, they got a lot of papers in them, a lot of paper balls. They should have started just fucking lighting this dude up. Now, at a distance, yeah, not every round's going to hit, but they're going to lob enough of them in, they're going to fucking hit them with some. And the direct munition effect of pain could cause him to say, you know what, fuck this, I don't want any more, I'm going to give up. And, or depending on wind and everything and how they hit him, some of that pepper powder could get into his eyes and his mouth, and then start having the effects of OC on them, having involuntary eye closure, a sensation of difficulty breathing, the inflammation of the alveoli and the mucous membranes, put him in a world of hurt, right? That could slow him down enough to where he's not effectively running fast anymore and isn't able to keep a distance from them. They could close that distance on this guy, deploy tasers on this guy, or, as they get closer, just fucking light his ass up with more pepper balls, be more accurate with those hits, and then, as they get on top of him, deploy tasers and or just go to straight OC cans and just paint his face with liquid OC. Those, I think, would have been better options than to just release the canine right here at this point. Because this canine is going to cover the distance super fucking fast and be on this guy, and then this guy be able to be stabbing this dog while they're still trying to catch up and get into a position to where they could fire a shot or two and have a high degree of likelihood of not even hitting the dog. So, I don't think it was a good call to release the dog.
Yeah, the guy get it! Fuck!
There he goes.
Fuck!
Now, what else could they have done other than the pepper balls? Let me back this up so there's a better freeze frame. What else could they have done besides pepper balls? Well, there's 40 millimeter less lethal and there's 12 gauge less lethal. At this distance, 40 millimeter I think would have been the better choice because it is able to hit things at a further distance more accurately. They could have had the direct hit munition that would just cause pain. They could have a direct hit munition that could basically release powdered OC or some CNCS. That could have been an option. When it comes to 12 gauge, beanbag is really the only option out there. And at a certain distance, it becomes not very effective because basically all you're doing is firing a beanbag through a smooth bore. And it's, even if it's rifled, it's still it's a bag, right? It's not a hard object that is able to stabilize and be aerodynamic. It is a fucking, like if you ever played cornhole, right? You got a big ass beanbag. That's what a fucking 12 gauge beanbag is. Just a smaller version of that. It's just a fucking bag with lead shot in it, right? Like that's not very aerodynamic. So at a certain distance, yeah, it's not going to be very accurate at all. And at this distance, they may not be able to put consistent hits on this guy with the 12 gauge beanbag. Back in the day, in the 2000s, Taser International, which is now called Axon, they had a Taser 12 gauge round. And back then, I'd say probably technology was maybe one of its negative things. It just wasn't perfected good enough. But it was a pretty badass concept. But it just never gained a whole lot of popularity. And that could be because of pricing on it. You know, agencies just weren't able to afford it. Or they just didn't deem it something that was, you know, worth it or whatever. I don't know. I don't know what the full reasoning behind it why it didn't gain popularity. But with advancements in technology, Axon right now has a drone with tasers on it. Like they can fly a fucking drone around and shoot people with it. Like if they can do that, I'm pretty confident they can go right back to the drawing board and come up with a really effective 12 gauge taser impact munition. that would be a hell of a lot better than what the original one was. And in today's day and age, where everyone is all about less lethal, which, I mean, since the fucking 80s and 90s, people have been about less lethal, right? But not to the level I think that it is today. Like, I really think that there would probably be a lot more agencies that would be more apt to invest in that kind of technology than probably what they were back in the early 2000s. So, Axon, I think, has the ability to develop a great less lethal munition for 12 gauge, and I think they should revisit that. So at this right now as it is, pepper ball I think is the only effective less lethal thing to try and gain some kind of compliance over this guy. Other than that, there's nothing else on the market. I mean, you got the bolo wrap gun. I don't have any experience with that, but at this distance, I don't think it's effective at all. They have to get closer to them to get it to be effective. So other than that, there ain't shit they can use. There's nothing they can do. Now, if they had the Axon drone with the tasers on it, potentially, yeah, that could be something that could be utilized, right? Like, fly that thing up to them, chase them with the chase them with the drone, and shoot them with the tasers. But other than that, there's not much out there in terms of less lethal options, especially when there's distance involved like this. There's just not much out there.
Fuck! There he goes. Fuck!
You got a knife! You got a knife!
Stop it!
Fire!
Hey! Here!
Back it up.
You got a knife!
Stop it!
Fire!
Hey! Here!
Put your hands out to the side of you!
So the dog has been stabbed multiple times.
Here!
Gabriel, roll over to your stomach.
Here!
Oh, leave the phone up! I can't move! I can't move! What's the phone? You get the phone
I love this dog. This dog has been stabbed by this dude. Now, between the dog being stabbed and gunshots going off super close to it, you know, the dog let go and started running around. But once that dog regained its composure, it went right back in and fucked this dude up. I love this dog. Like, I wish there was a way to, like, send them a box of treats, or, like, send a gift card so they can go back buy the dog some treats or something. Like, this dog just got stabbed by this dude multiple times, and the dog has come back and has said, "Fuck you, bitch," and fucking blashed onto this dude, biting the shit out of him, and has his paws around his arm, not letting go. He's like, "Motherfucker, I'm getting revenge on you." That is why I fucking love dogs. They are awesome. They just, like, you couldn't ask for a better partner than a dog. I mean, that's why dogs are known as man's best friend. They're awesome, awesome beings. They really are. And this dog right here is fucking doggy badass. Like, he just got stabbed. Like, this dude was stabbing him like Michael Myers kind of stabbing, like ice pick grip with the knife, just wailing on this dog with this knife. And the dog came back and was like, I'm getting this last bite in. This guy's face right here exemplifies fuck around and find out. Let's back this up so we can see this dog go in and do some work.
You got a knife! You got a knife!
Stop it!
Fire!
Hey! Here!
Put your hands out to the side of you! Put your hands out to the side!
The dog's walking it out right now. He's like, work it out, work it
Roll
out.
over to your stomach.
Alright, I'm good. Come here, motherfucker.
I can't move. I can't move. What the fuck? You guys are there now.
That's a good boy.
Roll him over. Roll over, Gabriel. Roll over. Come on. You want to stop the train cars?
When officers number 1 and number 2 discharged their service weapons, the canine disengaged from Mr. Mata, but then returned and re-engaged him before the deputy could catch his canine and secure the leash. Officers then handcuffed Mr. Mata, called for paramedics, and began medical aid.
Hey, Collins, then just sit down, dude. I'm trying to get you hit.
Put some clothes in front of him.
Gabriel, there's canine. Tell me trying to get you out of the dog. He's down.
He's out of the car with himself. From the fucking lead.
Gabriel, get on the ground. You can get you out of the dog.
Actually, this guy don't even have a rifle. It's a fucking 40mm launcher.
Gabriel, get on the ground. You can get
Yeah,
you
it's
out
a
of the dog.
40mm launcher.
Hold on, John. Back up. Hey, Gabriel, final warning, sir. Hey, get on the ground. You're going to get hit. Watch it, Sarah. Watch it. Watch it. Get on the ground. Get it. Fuck. Fuck. We're going to die. Hey, here. Oh, put your hands on the side. Put your hands on the side. Stop. Here. Here, my husband. Here, John. Here.
Drop the knife.
Here.
Oh, what the fuck? I can't move. What the fuck? You guys are late now. I can't.
Roll over, Gabriel. Roll over, Gabriel. Roll over. Come on.
Mr. Mata was arrested and transported to the hospital. Mr. Mata was charged with felony domestic violence.
Well, it's unfortunate that the coroner's office didn't come pick his stupid ass up. Just go back and see this one more time. So yeah, with the way he's positioned, he was stabbing that dog. That meant that these officers were firing into his side and his backside. I have no issue with that whatsoever. There are some people out there who seem to have some kind of problem with targeting a person's backside. They think that shooting a person in the back is just inherently wrong. It's taboo, whatever. I see no problem in it. If that's the only angle that the target is offering to you, then that's the only angle that you've got. It's not like they could realistically wait for him to turn and present his chest to them so that they could be, more righteous in their shooting. That just makes no sense to me. These are people who are realistically basing their ethos and their values in life based off bullshit movies and bullshit constructs that are basically based off movies. you know, like the Old West thing, you know, pace off and you got to turn to face each other. Can't shoot a man in the back. That's wrong. It's an old Hollywood thing, and a lot of people, their lives are really influenced by movies. People's knowledge on stuff, although it's completely incorrect, it's all false. A lot of people's knowledge and beliefs are based off things they see in movies. And so this whole can't shoot a person in the back thing it still lives on out there, and it just makes no sense to me. If that's the only angle that they provide, that's the only angle they provide. And, you know, sometimes even people within the professional realm will have this mindset too. And I'll offer it to them, a scenario. What if you're responding to an active shooter incident and you go into a school and there's an active shooter walking around shooting people and their back is to you, or you're in a public mall and there's an active shooter and they're shooting people and their back is to you? Are you going to hold fire just because their back is facing you? You're going to give them that opportunity to turn and face you? No. Like, what's offered is offered. Take it. Who gives a fuck if their back is facing to you? That's more advantageous for you to begin with. So, no problem with them lighting his backside up. He's using deadly force against the dog. I think they said the dog survived. I hope the dog survived. Yeah, so the dog survived. That's good. Good thing the dog lived. It's always, I mean, it's tough when you see, you know, good people die, but it's, I don't know, like for me, dogs, like good dogs dying, I mean, that's, I don't know, it's kind of more of a tearjerker moment for me a lot of times, especially, you know, when you see these agencies, these dogs that, you know, they get some kind of like cancer or something, they got to be taken in to be euthanized and they're doing their last ride. Like, that's some sad shit like that. I'm a grown-ass man, and that will get me fucking choked up.
Gabriel, final warning, kid. Fuck!
He's got a knife! He's got a knife! He's... Stop it!
Paul 37 shots fired. Hey! Here!
Put your...
Alright, so no problem with the use of force as far as the lethal force that they used. But I don't think that they necessarily had to have gotten themselves into that position to begin with. I really think that there's no 100% certainty that the pepper balls would have done anything, but at least if they would have exhausted those, then it would have been a little bit more justifiable to send the dog in at that point. Because if you've exhausted all other options, now you send the dog in. So I think they could have at least spared the dog from being injured and or possibly killed if they would have deployed both pepper ball guns and whatever payload was in that 40mm launcher that guy had. I'm assuming he probably had direct impact type of munitions in it, the little sponge rounds or whatever. I think they definitely could have expended those, made that good faith effort to get this dude to comply with pain compliance. The pepper balls, again, you know, depending on the wind and everything and how they hit them, they could at least probably got some of that OC powder into his eyes and his mouth and fucked him up a little bit to where he could not effectively run as fast as he could without it, and that could have allowed them to close the gap and then at least maybe pop some taser cartridges into him to get the desired effect. There's still a good possibility that if they would have done that and got up close to him, he could have just turned and charged at them with a knife, and it would have been an officer-involved shooting at that point. So, although I say that, you know, they could have used less lethal at first, I'm only saying that because for the risk mitigation factor for the canine itself. I think they could have done those things before sending the K-9 in. I still think this probably would have resulted in an officer-involved shooting. I don't think this dude was going to go down without a fight. And if they had exhausted those things and they got up close enough to use taser, I'd say he probably would have charged them with a knife, or at least squared off to them and try to keep them away, which that in itself would have resulted in an OIS. He's a dirtbag gangbanger. Dude's piece of crap. Brought up a news article. I don't think they're going to talk about his background. No, they don't talk about his background, other than the fact that he is a gang member and wanted felon. And sometimes, you know, the liberal California, they don't always give the most background information as far as the criminal background goes. So I'm going to do a real quick search. Gabriel Mata, gang member. Well, I mean, this could be, well, no, this looks like him with the face tattoos and everything. So I see an article from 2017, one RTL gang member arrested Monday and one remains loose after the two brothers from the gang allegedly robbed two Fresno Home Depot stores in December. Joe Mata and Gabriel Mata ran out of the store with $1,200 worth of equipment. They were at that time on felony probation, so at least going back to 2017 on felony probation. Vehicle theft case and another involvement in robbery, what they was originally out for. So yeah, I mean, I could probably try and spend some more time trying to find stuff on this dude. It's just, you know, it's going to be a little bit trying to go through it all, but you know, guys like this, they're in that criminal lifestyle. Like they've been, and it's not like they all of a sudden one day decided to get into it. It's something they've been involved in for quite some time, even as teenagers or kids. Is where a lot of them start their lifestyle out at. So this guy is just one of those drains on society. He is a frequent flyer, and he's going to continue to be a frequent flyer of the criminal justice system until he expires. So society is going to be basically paying for this guy one way or another until he expires. And that's the cold-hearted, sad truth about it. You know, you can talk about the reasonings why he turned to this lifestyle, you know, socioeconomic reasons, poverty, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, things could be done potentially to make differences and prevent those things from happening, but once they happen, realistically, there's no rehabilitating people like this. There's really not. There's just, they're set in their ways. They really are. They're not going to change for anyone. The only way they actually change is when they get way, way older. And even then, their moral compass is still fucked up. They have not become good people. They just physically cannot do shit anymore. That's why you do not see 70-year-old fucking gangbangers on the street slinging dope, doing hood shit with their hood friends. They can't keep up with it. Their adversaries on the street will fucking kill them in a heartbeat. There is no respect on the streets. You know, and all these little fucking street thugs talk about respect. Ain't a damn one of them know what the fucking definition of respect is. Their version of respect is you submit to them. Right? Like they are dominant and you are submitting to them. That's what they think respect is. Old people, I don't give a fuck. In fact, a lot of these people, a lot of these criminals, they specifically target old people because they know old people can't fight back very well. They can dominate them. So that's why you will never see a bunch of 70-year-old gang members out in the street corner slinging dope, doing hood shit. Their adversaries will fucking kill them in a heartbeat. They can't fight back that effectively. They can't run and gun like an 18, 19-year-old can. They can't keep up in a fight with a 15-year-old. It's just not fucking possible. And they can't run from the police very effectively either. It's not like some 17-year-old punk-ass kid who can really sprint really fast, right? 17-year-old punk kid can run really good and can avoid capture. 70-year-old gangbanger? No. Like, their ass is getting caught real fast. So, the only way these gangbangers really stop gangbanging in totality, or at least not totality, but to the extent that they do, is with age. The older they get, they're just not able to do it anymore. But their moral compass is still fucked up. Like, they will still do criminalistic shit, but they're just not doing it at the intensity that they are at a young age. So when it comes to violent offenders like this, persistent felony offenders like this, in my opinion, the right thing to do is lock them away for a very long time. They have proven, time after time, that they cannot play by the rules. They cannot live in society and treat others well. They're robbing people and they're stealing people's stuff. But yet the courts keep letting people like this out left and right. They get arrested, they get out early on a bond, and when they're out on bond, they could be out on bond for a year before their trial, before their case ever goes to a trial or ever gets anywhere near the phase of pleading guilty or even going to an actual trial to be found innocent or guilty. So literally, you could commit a crime today, a serious one like a robbery, and you could meet bail, and it'd be a year before you go to trial for that. So you could be out on the street for months doing whatever you want, victimizing more people until you get final sentenced for the first thing that you did. And that happens quite a bit, actually. A lot of these career criminals, these repeat offenders, they'll get arrested for, let's say, for the year 2022. They get one arrest in 2022. Well, they get out on bond for whatever it is they did, and then they get arrested for something else, and they get released on bond for it, and then get arrested for a third completely different thing, and a fourth completely different thing. A lot of them can get arrested up to like 4 to 6 times in a year. And that first thing they got arrested for still has not made it to the phase in the court system to where they're going to be entering any kind of plea in or getting anywhere near a trial date. Happens all the time, all across the nation. So, violent offenders, persistent offenders, should have extremely high bonds. Their sentencing should be extremely big. There should be mandatory minimum sentences done. If you commit a robbery and your state law says that you could serve, a maximum of 15 years, well then that's what it needs to be. It needs to be 15 years and not a day less. No chance for probation, no chance for parole, no chance for shock probation, mandatory reentry, scapegoat bullshit. Nothing. 15 years, not a day less. No credit for good behavior, completing programs. Like, there's a lot of these criminals who complete these SAP programs, the substance abuse program. They go complete that, and they get X amount of days taken off on their sentence. It's a bullshit fucking class. All they literally have to do is just sit there and attend it. That's it. Other things they can do in prison, just by merely attending it. What the fuck else do they have to do? They have nothing else to do. So of course it is super easy for them just to go attend a class and then complete it and then have a bunch of days taken off on their sentence. Working in a prison, they could be a cook, they could be a trustee, mopping floors, sweeping, organizing the library, little shit like that, and they get time taken off. For violent offenders, no, that should not be an option at all. In fact, it should be the reverse. you're gonna fucking do work while you're in prison, and you're gonna behave while you're in prison. And if you do that, then guess what? At the 15-year mark, you get out. But if you don't play by the rules, if you cause a fucking problem, then you should have more time added to your sentence. So I'm a huge proponent, huge believer that we should become hard on crime. We should make the criminals actually fear their criminal justice system, because they don't fear it right now. It's an annoyance to them, right? Like, they don't want to go to jail because they're obviously not able to go do what they want to do. But once they get in there, they're fine with it. It's not that bad, other than, having to smell smelly farts all day and listen to the same bullshit stories over and over. Other than that, they've got it okay. They got free cable TV. They're fed all the time. They can literally do whatever they want. They can sleep all damn day. They get access to chips and Cokes and candy and honey buns and all kinds of shit. Family can buy stuff for them. They can trade stuff inside. They can get access to e-cigarettes. They can buy an e-cigarette off commissary. They can get access to drugs and alcohol that's made inside, or the alcohol at least is made inside. Some jailhouse hooch, some wine, drugs coming in. They can get drugs pretty easily, either because, if it's in a jail setting, the work inmates are going out and they're getting it and they're bringing it back in. Staff, believe it or not, staff bringing the shit in. Actually, that's where the most of it comes from, is fucking dirty-ass fucking traitor staff bringing in drugs to the inmates. So they can get access to weed, meth, coke, whatever. So jail and prison is not all that bad for them. The only downside is they're just not out on the streets they want to be. But they're still, in a sense, in the streets. Because that's what jail and prison is. It's just an extension of the streets. It's not completely safe, and it's not completely structured, but it is a more structured and a more safe version of the streets. Because who's in jails and prisons? The people from the fucking hoods and shit, for the most part. So it's just an extension of those. It's just a more structured and safer environment than what the streets are. Not saying it's completely structured and safe, because like I said, there are traitorous fucking staff bringing stuff in, and they still get access to stuff. But at least they're in there and not out on the street where people are being victimized. So, big believer in being hard on crime and locking away violent offenders for a very long time. The longer they're off the streets, the safer we are. And if this means just completely removing to some extent, or not even completely removing, because there is some reason to have to lock people up for some of this stuff, but if it means like people with just simple drug possession charges, them completely avoiding jail, then you know what? I'm fine with that. But just so long as that's the only thing that they're in trouble for. If they're, breaking into houses, then no, that's still a crime against people. But if it's just a simple possession thing, and that means letting them skip out on going in jail, I'm perfectly fine with that. If that saves a bed for a violent offender, then by all means, save a bed for a violent offender. And keep these fuckers locked up as long as possible. Keep them locked up until an old age. Because as I said, there's a reason why you don't see 70-year-old gangbangers on the streets. They just can't fucking keep up with it. Physically, they can't do it anymore. And, as men get a little bit older, testosterone drops. And some guys can get a lot older and be a lot more level-headed. I would say that there's probably a really good number of convicted felons right now in prison who've probably killed people before, who realistically, some of them would probably be safe to release back out into the streets. They're in their fucking 80s and shit. Like, what the fuck are they going to be doing at 80 years old? I mean, yeah, like I said, their moral compass is still fucked. They will still do something illegal, most likely, once they get out. But they're not going to be running and gunning like they was when they was back in their 20s. It's just not. It's not happening. Anyway, I could go on and on talking about how we need to lock away violent offenders and how different laws need to be changed and blah, 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 but probably going on a little too far for this video. If you like what you hear and see, go ahead and give me a like and a share. If you have not already, hit the subscribe button and stay tuned for more Monday quarterback videos. Earl Henderson, Primordial Defense. Thank you for watching.